So, a fresh new week has arrived, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Usually, I post these episodes of the series called Your Take Not Mine on the weekends, so we are a day late, but we're here now, and it's where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, more reports have come out regarding the non-stop rumor mill of trade discussions going on regarding some big names, along with some other rumblings from around the league, so we definitely still have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from JDN, and he says that the Pelicans, as currently constructed, are legitimate title contenders if they can stay healthy. The Pelicans are a team that I really want to believe in because at their best they are a very fun group with tons of talent. Brandon Ingram has come into his own as a go-to scorer and all-star talent. CJ McCollum has always been a good number 2 option throughout his career who can handle the shot creation workload when necessary. Herb Jones and Trey Murphy are 2 very solid wing defenders, with Murphy especially providing service as a 3-and-D guy, while Herb is more of the complete lockdown defender, and then Zion Williamson can be a completely unstoppable force in the middle when he's on the court. But that's just it, isn't it? Quote, when he's on the court. Last year, when we were midway through December, which is about 1/3 of the way through the season, the Pelicans were sitting in first place in the Western Conference standings. Everything they were working towards and building looked like it was ready to come into fruition, and that it would be the year that they finally take the leap into contention. But then, as has happened every year of his career, Zion Williamson suffered an injury that set the team back big time. From that point on, the Pelicans dropped from first place in the standings all the way down to 9th at the end of the year, and they failed to make it out of the play-in tournament, so it didn't even result in a playoff berth for them. This offseason, the Pelicans have been fairly quiet, not really making any notable moves to either improve or decline. They just kind of stayed put with what they have, believing that it's enough to get back to the top of the mountain that they started last season on, but that line of reasoning is a bit flawed for a few reasons. For one, they're assuming that no other teams in the Western Conference have improved around them, and 2, they're assuming that Zion, for the first time in his career, can stay healthy all the way through. I don't think it's crazy at all to believe in their ability to compete at a high level when everyone is healthy. What I think may be a bit unrealistic is assuming that they will be healthy, so they're in a position where they need to prove they can do that before they get everyone fully bought in on them. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Rom, and he says that the Knicks right now are positioned to be the best destination to land stars either from free agency or through trade over the next 2 or 3 years. This take stems from the rumblings that have been coming out basically all summer long, but also especially lately, that the Knicks are planning to make some big moves in the near future when the opportunity presents itself. Every time a big name has had reports come out about them potentially looking to find a new home, the Knicks have been one of the most prominent teams linked to them, and as I say every time about this kind of stuff, where there's smoke, there's typically fire. The players they have specifically been linked to include Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Zion Williamson, amongst others. So with that in mind, it becomes clear that they have their sights set pretty high. The Knicks have made the playoffs in 2 of the last 3 seasons, and last year's run to the second round was a solid starting point for where they want to go in the future. Adding Jalen Brunson looks like an absolute steal in hindsight. Julius Randle has made 2 all-star teams with them. Josh Hart and Quentin Grimes are stout 2-way wings that play with good energy. Emmanuel Quickley has become one of the best 6th men in the league, and RJ Barrett puts ton of pressure on the rim as a scorer, even if he is still a bit inconsistent with his decision-making and shot selection. The Knicks have a ton of draft draft capital they can package in a trade offer, and they have decent young talent that they can include in an offer for a star as well. So in theory, they do have one of the better star trade packages on the market. However, if you go back through the last decade, you'll remember that the Knicks have been linked with damn near every single star that has been available, and the only one that they really managed to land was when they traded for Carmelo Anthony. They have always been a team that has shot for the stars, but they very rarely have actually pulled it off. So until some actual traction starts to unfold on this front, then all they will be are rumors, because we've been hearing the same thing about the Knicks every offseason for a long time. So they need to actually put their money where their mouth is before we start believing that they're about to land a player of Joel Embiid's or Giannis Antetokounmpo's caliber. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Sullivan, and he says that the 76ers will regret not being willing to trade Tyrese Maxey for Damian Lillard this offseason, because Lillard is better than anyone else they could realistically get moving forward. Things on the Damian Lillard front have started to heat back up, as over the last few days, we've actually seen a few other teams start to creep into the mix a little bit. The Toronto Raptors are starting to heat up as an alternative landing spot to Miami, the Orlando Magic have surprisingly entered the ring as a dark horse, and of course reports lately have stated that the 76ers have also had talks with the Trailblazers regarding potentially making a trade for Dame, but nothing has really come from any of it yet. The obvious deterrent for all of them is that Damian Lillard has stated he really only wants to play for the Heat, so they're always going to be hesitant to go after a guy who doesn't want to play for their team. But my opinion on that matter is that if one of these teams calls Lillard's bluff, and they're still a very good team that can contend with him on it, then he'll suck it up and play for them despite what he is saying, because the alternative is being heavily fined and losing his game checks. Throughout the whole process, guys like Brian Windhorst of ESPN, amongst a few other reporters, have said that if the Sixers were to make Tyrese Maxey available in the trade talks, then the Blazers would be interested, but the Sixers refuse to trade Maxey. The Sixers right now are in a pretty difficult spot because James Harden is unhappy, Joel Embiid is in the middle of his prime and wants to compete for championships, and in order to do that, they need the best talent around him right now. If things fall apart though, then having Tyrese Maxey as a huge building block for the future is a pretty good start in a rebuild. I've struggled with this idea for a while, but ultimately if I were the Sixers and there was a way to get Lillard paired with Joel Embiid, then I think that is way too good of a duo to say no to. Lillard would be the best teammate that Embiid has ever played with, because the current version of James Harden is not as good as Prime Harden was, and together they would be as formidable as anyone in the Eastern Conference. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes we discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.